so you get to learn about the Americas tonight for homework. Starting off with early Americans. People migrated out of Africa to everywhere except Antarctica. You guys have already been taught that. To come to the Western Hemisphere, the American continents, they crossed Beringia, B-E-R-I-N-G-I-A. Beringia no longer exists today. It was an ice bridge connecting Russia and Alaska. Today it is simply a body of water called the Bering Strait. When they arrived in the Americas, they were hunter-gatherers, and then in search of their food, they wandered or migrated east and southward. And then came global warming. Global warming melted Beringia, and as a result, these people are now going to be cut off from all of those in the Eastern Hemisphere. And as a result of that as well, their lives are going to be more similar to those of the Stone Age Africans. Our first main civilization are the Olmec. Olmec means rubber people. They are the main culture of Mesoamerica or Middle America, in the sense that most future cultures are going to get a lot of their social aspects and religion from the Olmec. Now, they did settle along the Gulf Coast. This little red dot right here is the main part of the Olmec civilization. They are polytheistic, or were polytheistic, meaning they believed in more than one god. They also are very well known for the colossal heads, right here. Many of you have probably seen this, hopefully so. Moving on, we have the Maya. The Maya are also called the Deaf Empire, even though they were not nearly as sacrificial as the Aztecs. The Mayan Empire was located in the Mexican and Central American rainforest. You can see right here on the map, this is called the Yucatan Peninsula. The Yucatan Peninsula ends up being the main base for the Mayan Empire. Today, those countries would be Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and Belize. Their classical period took place between 250 and 900 AD. Their most famous cities were Tikal, Palenque, Uxmal, and Chichen Itza. Tikal is T-I-K-A-L, Palenque, P-A-L-E-N-Q-U-E, Uxmal, U-X-M-A-L, and Chichen Itza, C-H-I-C-H-E-N space I-T-Z-A. The most famous of these cities is actually Chichen Itza. It will be the capital of the Mayan Empire. Each city-state is going to be ruled by a god king. They treated their gods as if they were kings. Kings as if they were gods. They also had pyramids, temples, palaces, and elaborate stone carvings. Most of these city-states in the Mayan region are going to be linked together through alliances and, as we've seen all year long, through trade. Their economy is based on agriculture and trade. Main products: maize, which is corn, beans, and squash. They also practiced slash and burn farming. That allowed them to produce larger amounts of food in support of their very large population. Mayan social classes. At the very top, we have the king. Again, God king. They are regarded as holy figures. Next, we have the nobles, which also includes priests and leading warriors. Underneath that, you have the merchants with special skills. So basically, your artisans and your skilled craftsmen. And then at the bottom, the majority of the population, the peasants. Mayan religion. Mayans were also polytheistic, meaning they believed in many gods. They offered many different types of sacrifices to keep the gods happy. These included human sacrifices. They also were known to throw captives into sinkholes as offerings to the gods, and they would sometimes throw gold or other products down there. Now, not all sacrifices were human. Sometimes it was animals. It depended on what god needed the sacrifice. They also developed a 365-day calendar. Sorry for the interruption. Okay, so they developed a 365-day calendar. Many people thought that because of the Mayan calendar, the world was coming to an end recently. Obviously, didn't happen. We're still here. They also were very smart in terms of, or advanced in terms of math and astronomy. They used a dot system in lines in order to keep mathematical records. And if you notice right here, they also used the number 0. It was fascinating for historians to discover that they also used the number 0 because it was a completely different hemisphere, yet they had some of the same techniques that they had in India and Arabia. Now, what happens to the Maya? All that people really know is that in the late 800s, the Mayans start to abandon their cities. There could be various reasons as to why this happened. No one really knows. Oops. The Aztec, one that you watched today. The Aztec Empire was located in the arid valley of Mexico, present-day Mexico City. They were the largest and greatest, historically speaking, of all the Mesoamerican civilizations. They had shallow lakes, which gave them accessible resources and fertile soil. This is going to bring in some of the outside tribes, such as the Teotihuacan and the Toltecs. Alright, the Aztecs founded their capital, Tenochtitlan, in the middle of Lake Texcoco. This is again in modern-day Mexico City. They're going to form the Triple Alliance with 2 other city-states to enable them to control their very large empire. Now, their power was mainly based off of military conquest and the wealth they took from people that they conquered. From those people they conquered, they would take tribute. That tribute would be in the form of gold, maize, cacao beans, cotton, or jade. Social classes. At the top of the social pyramid in the Aztec Empire, we have the emperor. Next, you have nobles. Nobles are your government officials, priests, and military leaders. They ruled over a state similar to lords in feudal Europe. Next, you have your commoners, who would be merchants, artisans, soldiers, and farmers who owned land. At the very bottom, you have slaves. These are going to be war captives who are going to perform various tasks. Now, these are the war captives who have not been sacrificed. Trade in the Aztec Empire. In the Aztec Empire, economy was primarily based on agriculture, but they did trade with faraway places. That is evidenced by products being in other areas of Mexico. They also had agricultural surpluses that they were able to get by creating the chinampas. Chinampas were wet, marshy areas where they built islands in order to have fertile soil. The capital, Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan had over 200,000 people and was larger than any city in Europe at the same exact time. The city center was built in the middle of the lake. Here's Lake Texcoco. This is the center of the city. They also had raised roads. These roads were called causeways, and this is going to link the city to city-states outside. Canals also divided the city so people could travel by boat, and cargo could also be transferred in or transported into the market. Aqueducts were another crowning achievement of the Aztecs that were able to carry fresh water to the city. Hygiene was very important to the Aztecs, more so than we have seen in Europe and will continue to see for quite a few hundred years in Europe. In the very center of Tenochtitlan, there are walls that surround the city. Inside the city walls, you have palaces, temples, government buildings, and most importantly, the Great Temple, the Temple Mayor. Religion. They too are polytheistic. The most important god to them was the sun god. They believed that the sun god needed human blood for nourishment. Without human blood from these sacrifices, the sun god would fall, and so would sunlight. Aztec priests were in their own special social class. You notice that they were not mentioned in the pyramid. That's because they were special. They recorded knowledge, they ran schools, they were your astronomers, they were the mathematicians. And they were also the ones that did the human sacrifices, cutting out the hearts of their victims, usually prisoners of war, and holding it up to the sun god. With these sacrifices, the heart needed to still be beating. If the heart was not beating when they ripped it out, or cut it out, then it was not a viable sacrifice, and they would go with the next one. Sacrifices would take place at the top of the temple. After they would sacrifice and they would cut out the heart, they would toss the body down the stairs, and usually you had people waiting at the bottom to catch them. Fun sport. The need for the human sacrifice ends up pushing the Aztec military to raid even more people. They would bring back prisoners, and that would be their next victim for sacrifice. Unfortunately, this meant they didn't have a very strong military because they were more worried about capturing people alive. Problems and decline of the Aztec. The Aztecs demand more and more tribute, which is going to cause provinces to rebel against them. And then you also have the Spanish conquistadors who arrive, mainly Hernan Cortez. The Inca. The Inca are located in South America in the Andes Mountains. Today that would be Peru, northern Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Argentina. They get their name from a family group, so it's actually like a last name. And they settled in the Cusco Valley. Cusco Valley can be seen right here. And then even though the capital is Cusco, the most important city of the Incan Empire is actually Machu Picchu. And the people from the Inca were united in the fact that they believed that their rulers were descendants of their sun god Inta, sometimes pronounced Inti. At first it's going to grow really slow in the Incan Empire, and then you have the rule of Pachacuti and his son Yupanqui. They are going to be the ones that expand it past the Cusco Valley into Peru, Ecuador, Chile, and Argentina. Now, when the Inca conquered people, they did allow them to retain their own customs and laws as long as they pledged their allegiance to the Inca. So very similar to the Persians. The Inca are ruled by an emperor. The emperor has absolute power, meaning he has control over everything. He had control over marriages. You had to have a pass if you wanted to travel within the empire. Also controlled farming, the harvest. And then even though they were allowed to keep their rulers and their customs, they also had to adopt what the Inca offered. The government did have a bureaucracy, so again, very similar to Persia. And to make sure that there was no animosity, they made sure that all government buildings were the same. And everyone had to perform mita, or labor. Kind of like socialism, you had to work. That was part of living in the Incan Empire. And the Inca also had a very good road system, over 14,000 miles. The economy was based off of high-altitude agriculture using terrace farming. These are different terraces, different crops on different terraces. Record keeping, they used quipu, a knot tying system that allowed them to keep records of numbers, whether it be for census or the economy. Religion, polytheistic again, however, they worshipped less gods than the other ones. Their most important item was gold, which they would often give tribute to their sun god. Decline and fall. We have Atahualpa versus Huáscar. They are brothers. They have a civil war. The one that ends up victorious is Atahualpa, until Francisco Pizarro, a Spaniard, comes in and conquers the Inca. The end.